Nestled in the Eastern Caribbean is the CARICOM member state Grenada, which includes the islands of Carriacou and Petite Martinique. From above, the homes in the hills overlook the picturesque Caribbean Sea and blue hues, which paints a picture of water and life. The island of Spice has a population of approximately 110,000, including 4,595 in Carriacou and 900 in Petite Martinique. And though the pristine sea is the driving force of the tourism industry, ironically, it's the lack of drinking water, compounded by harsh weather events due to climate change, that has threatened the nation for decades.
As far as the 1970s, when more than 95% of the cattle population was wiped out because there was no water for the cattle to drink and there was no grass, no feed. So we lost about 95% of the cattle population then. In 1961, for example, there was a serious drought where the school had to be closed for weeks because there was no water for the children to drink and so on. And during from the 1970s, 1950s, 60s and 70s, water had to be transported from Grenada to Petite Martinique. Different locally built vessels had to go to Grenada and bring water. And in the distribution of the water, there was many fights and quarrels. And I give an instance where an old lady got her hand broken because of the fight and quarrel. You want to get as much buckets of water as possible. You want the bucket to be at the head of the line.
With funding primarily from UKDFID and EU-GCCA, the Caribbean Community Climate Change Center fostered a partnership with the government of Grenada, Nawasa, Grenlec, and countless citizens on the islands to procure and install 2 saltwater reverse osmosis plants and a photovoltaic system. And according to the Parliamentary Secretary, the Honorable Norland Cox, the systems have come at the right time.
A truck driver who was taking water from here, and he said to me, he said, "Cox, I don't know what we would have done without this plant this year. I really don't know what we would have done without this plant this year." I say this to say that this plant, this opportunity that is before us is something that is deeply and well received by our people. And for this, we want to say thank you.
Oh, sweet life-saving water. Water is life. Remember, water is life. Water is life. Water is life.
$2.6 million were invested in the islands of Carriacou and Petite Martinique for the people to have potable water. Approximately $1.7 million came from UKDFID. The head of UKDFID's Caribbean office spoke of additional funding for countries in the region, but specifically on her hopes for the people of Grenada.
I'm really delighted to be here to support the launch of this partnership and the handing over of these 2 desalination plants, 2 water storage tanks and solar-powered plants to the people of Carriacou. We heard that water is a precious resource from the poem that we just heard, and I really hope that these are well maintained and left as a resource for the future and for future generations so that the benefits can last well into the future.
The overall operations of the project on the 2 islands were spearheaded by Dr. Mark Bino, the head of the 5Cs Project Management Development Unit. Bino noted that it was a partnership with the community, and when examining the development framework of the islands, the crucial issue was water.
At the very inception, this was a partnership with the community. We came in and we had discussions with the PS, I can remember definitively. And at that time, it was identified that a critical issue within their sustainable development framework was water. And so we began to craft a strategy, having already done some adaptation pilots on how this can be executed. But as is often the case, our intention was never to do as much as we did. And so the other partners in the donors was very important. Because as we have heard, a project is a very dynamic process. When we started out, the intention was to build 2 plants and put down 2 PV systems. Over time, we recognized that building 2 plants and putting 2 PV systems would not serve the purpose. So we went back to our partners and the donors and we said, PM needs a distribution network. can we look at where monies can be saved and put in that direction? And they readily agreed. We heard that Carriacou had a distribution system. What shape it was in, no one really knew. And so we went back to the donors again and we said, can we repair what's there? Because it's not only about more water production, it's about water efficiency. We are happy to say that the flexibility of our donors, UKDFID in particular, made this possible.
This project is truly blessed. And this project has demonstrated, of all the projects I've worked on, as the project that demonstrates true partnership. And I say true partnership, we have over 100 different persons involved or more in the execution of this project. For example, in Petite Martinique, where we had to get in excess of 40 signatures to allow the force main line to go all the way up to the tank. Because, as for most persons who don't know, the government do not have lands in Petite Martinique, it's all private lands.
Located 3 miles east of the north end of Carriacou, a second ceremony was held on Petite Martinique. The message of the primary donor agency, UKDFID, was consistent on the deliverables that were implemented by the Centre and partners.
I would like to take this opportunity to thank the 5 Cs, who've been our implementing partner on a multifaceted programme covering not only this project, but also risk management tools, climate negotiations and finance mobilisation, monitoring, as well as other crucial adaptation projects in agriculture and ecosystem protection.
The 5 Cs, via funding from the European Union Global Climate Change Alliance, spent $578,000 for procuring and installing a PV system to provide electrical power for the Carriacou SWRO plant and a $50,000 gallon water storage tank at Morn Hill on Petite Martinique. That aspect of the project was managed by the 5 Cs Joe Magan.
The program approach of the center came into being because the DFID program came on board and provided resources which was significantly more than the EU-GCCA had in its program to do the work. And so I myself feel very proud that this has been achieved, and I want to say thank you also to the folks in PM who came to the community meetings, who did the surveys with us, and all the groundwork that started to get this program going. And thank you, Permanent Secretary Sylvester. You've been there all the way and gave us the support we needed. Thanks.
For decades, the people survived primarily by harvesting rainwater and buying water from trucks. It is a new era that will be affordable because of the power generated from the systems, and it will also cut costs to families on the islands.
It couldn't be more at a better time than now, because water is so needed at this time.
With this plant now, it will assist us in having water more abundant for farming and for other uses.
It's very important because you need it every day to drink, to cook and bathe.
We have a tank at home, so we collect the water from rain. I think it's very good. It's a great idea that they put this plant here.
The Minister for Carriacou and Petite Martinique Affairs and Local Government spoke of how he regularly carried buckets of water through the street as a child, but he looked to the Center of Excellence, the 5 Cs, as a means to develop and implement future mitigation and adaptation projects to offset the impacts of climate change for his people.
My friends, this is not the end of it, because I've already been in conversation and in consultation with the 5 Cs to move further. In other words, we want to expand this water project to make sure we have enough for the development of agriculture. We talk about tourism and other benefits. And of course, we also want to make sure that we have a proper sewage system both in Carriacou and in Petite Martinique. I want to remind Dr. Leslie, Dr. Bino, Dr. Trotz, and my good friend here, Otis, who is a Carriacouan, that we are coming to you again because there are many other things that we need in this beautiful land of Carriacou and Petite Martinique. My friends, this is your project. The desalination plant is yours. It's a gift to you, the people of Carriacou and Petite Martinique. Take care of it, mind it, cherish it. Make sure that it serves the purpose, not only for us here today, but for generation yet unborn.
This program for Petite Martinique and Carriacou is in excess jointly between the EU and UKDFID. I'm just talking the capital costs is in excess of 2.5 million United States dollars. And it is not the end, because the center, I want to thank our donors and in their presence for the confidence they have put in the center to execute their programs, to develop projects for the regions, and to provide the support. Right now, there's a new program coming under DFID, as was mentioned. That will come on later this year. But the center has been able to have funds granted for other projects. Right now, during the next 4 years, of the order of $50 million. So, Mr. Deputy Prime Minister, your program for the extension or expansion is well on the horizon.
The future of the island is in its youth, and one young Carriacouan poet already knows the value that water is life.
So remember, without water, we cannot stay alive. Without water, we really can't survive. I am an element of nature. God is my creator. Our gratitude goes out to the 5 C's for providing us with this facility. For we definitely know that Carriacou will never be without water for sure.
What we see here today is the culmination of years of work, years of studies, years of consultations with our people across the region, and hopefully it's the beginning of a new era for the center, where we implement projects that make a difference to the lives of the people in the Caribbean. That's what we are all about. Partnership with our donor agencies, and we hope to broadcast this as an example of best practice, where we were able to pool the resources from 2 donors to give us a substantive output. So the center stands ready, not only in Petite Martinique, Carriacou, Grenada, but throughout the Caribbean, to work in partnerships so that we could start to address real Caribbean problems, the real problems of people, and contribute significantly to the betterment of the quality of life of our people right across the Caribbean.
I couldn't express how I felt when I heard the experience of people fighting to get water. The lady that got her arm broken for the rest of her life. So I feel that this type of work that we are doing at the center speaks to what we as a region needs to do. Because working together, much can be achieved. And I would like to point out to all of you, the center started its operations 10 years ago. So we are celebrating our 10th year. And this is one of the features that we can look back to and say, we believe we are doing our part in addressing climate change and the adaptations and mitigation that we have to put in place.
To learn more about climate change, visit CaribbeanClimate.bz and explore the Clearinghouse, the most extensive repository of Caribbean-specific information on climate change.